Picture this, you've bought your dream home, you've got the moving truck booked, you've got champagne on ice, settlement you think's all ready to go and occur on the agreed date. That's what should happen, right? Wrong. Most times, settlements on properties that you're buying or sometimes selling can be delayed, and there can be lots of reasons that cause this. So what does happen if the property that you're buying or selling has a delayed settlement? Well, in this video, I'm going to take you through everything you need to know about a delayed settlement, including one surefire way that you can lose the deposit on the house that you've bought. Let's jump right in. Well, starting off, why might settlement be delayed? It typically goes like this. You might have found the dream place, you've signed a contract, you've got your loan approved, you've got settlement date already determined, and it's coming up, and you think everything's on track, and you're ready to move into the property. Unfortunately, there are plenty of things that can go wrong from the time that you sign the loan contracts up until settlement that can cause massive delays with the date that you actually pick up the keys and go through settlement. Some of these delays can be caused by, number one, bank problems. So the bank might be delayed when they get your contracts back, there might be processing issues, you might have missed a signature, the list can go on, and this can cause settlement to be pushed out by days and sometimes even weeks. The second issue we see is final inspection issues. So before you get the keys and before the day of settlement, generally you'll do a pre-settlement inspection and you'll go and check out the property, make sure there's no holes in the wall, make sure they've fixed up any things they promised they were going to fix up, and it's often the case that the problems haven't been rectified. This can cause massive delays in your settlement. The third problem that we see all the time is if the sellers are trying to buy another property or if they're trying to refinance a loan on the same date. It's called a simultaneous settlement. This means that you need to coordinate multiple parties to try and settle on that one day when you're supposed to hand over the keys, and invariably can cause massive delays with your settlement, which can really risk your deposit. And lastly, the fourth thing that can cause settlement delays is late documentation. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, simply missing a signature, or if your conveyancer or solicitor forgets a form or a bank document, can cause issues. The banks just simply won't settle your home loan and therefore can delay settlement. It's not necessarily your fault, but it can happen all the time and we see it so often. So then what does happen if your settlement delays, and what are some of your rights and things that you can do when it happens? Well, in this section, I'm going to break it down by state because every state is a little bit different in this, and I'll try and cover it a bit high level. Before I get into that, I just want to say that this isn't legal advice. You should consider your personal situation individually. This is obviously general. Speak to a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. This is the stuff that we've got from the State Revenue website. Okay, starting off with my home state in Queensland, what happens if settlement is delayed and you're buying a property? Unfortunately, it's one of the harshest states out of Australia. So in Queensland, generally one of two things happens. Either one, the seller will agree to extend your settlement and it'll be fine. You can push it back a couple of days and everyone's pretty happy. Number two, worst case, if you've got a settlement date determined on the contract, depending on your contract, but generally under the laws of the contract, the seller can choose to terminate the contract altogether. That means that they can take your deposit. So if you put down 5% or 10% of the property's purchase price on the contract, they can actually take that if your settlement is delayed. Next up is Western Australia. They're a little bit more lenient than Queensland. They generally have a rule that gives you a bit of a 3-day leniency on the settlement date. So if you can't make it on Monday, they might push it back 3 business days, but then we'll start to charge you penalty interest, which is determined under the contract for every day that you're late. Again, the conditions are going to depend on your contract, so check it out with your lawyer. In New South Wales, it's different again. Similar to Western Australia, they will charge you penalty interest for every day that you're late. Then they can issue you what's called a notice to complete. This document says that you must settle on a certain date or the contract will be terminated and you'll forfeit your deposit. The number of days in the notice to complete is usually about 14 days. So at least you've got a bit of breathing space there, but obviously not a situation you want to get to and you want to resolve quickly. In Victoria, it's similar to New South Wales. So they will charge you penalty interest, which can be up to 10%, but is determined by your contract for every day that you're late. So it can end up racking up thousands of dollars in extra penalty fees that you wouldn't otherwise have to pay if your settlement wasn't delayed. With the other states, including South Australia, Northern Territory and Tasmania, we'll include a link below on some of the implications that can be caused when your settlement is delayed. Okay, hopefully I haven't stressed you out too much. So how do you reduce the risk of having your settlement delayed? Number one is be organized. If the bank sends you documents, try not to sit on them for too long. You need to sign and return them as soon as you can, because once you send the documents back to the bank, they can take a few days, and sometimes when it's busy, a few weeks, to verify the documents. They'll double check your signatures and make sure everything's in order to settle your home loan. Like I mentioned earlier, if there's something missing, a signature, a date, a full stop wrong, they'll have to send the documents back to you and it can delay things weeks at a time. So get your mortgage broker to double check the documents before you send them back. Number 2 is choose the right team around you. So you want to work with solicitors and conveyancers that might know the process and understand the ins and outs and aware of the timeframes to make sure that everything goes through smoothly and you're not having to run around at the last minute getting bank accounts closed and signing different forms. Number 3, with property, it's all pretty slow and a bit manual, but you need to always make sure that communication is being kept up. Most importantly, you want to put your mortgage broker and your solicitor or your conveyancer to all in touch with each other so they can communicate and coordinate your settlement to make sure it goes through super smoothly and there's no delays from them waiting on each other or waiting on you for certain documents. And the last one is a bit of attention to detail. Try and check the documents before you sign them. Make sure that the deposit amount hasn't changed, make sure that your name's spelled correctly. All these little things can cause massive delays with settlements. So that's it for today, guys. Hopefully you learned something on settlements that can get delayed and how to get around them. What was your favorite tip? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have any questions, make sure you hit me up at huntergalloway.com.au. Thanks for watching.